Well, they must have lost our intro. That's all right. They lost it last week
They
too.
just want to give us a little extra time.
That's sweet of them. They just want to give us a little extra time. Way to cover. Way to cover. You're. Oh my gosh. Diana, are you there? Diana.
Here I am in all my glory.
And all
You
your
understand, just throw money.
I wish we could. Because we would. We would. Well, today, and welcome to Reflections. Monica is out. She has mom duty. And Kimberly and I both know about mom duty. And we are honored to have mom duty. But sometimes it gets a little
You give me time consuming.
time consuming and overwhelming. But Monica has it today. So I've got like those delicious, she made some sliders, ham and Swiss cheese. Was it some butter involved?
Yes. Oh, of course.
Of course, it was some butter involved, Diana, and I just ate one and it's delicious. Delicious. I wish you could be here. One day you will, but I wish you could be here to eat one. It's so good. So now you have to go make these ham and cheese sliders this week.
So you guys butter your ham sandwiches as well?
Oh, this stuff,
yeah.
this stuff is dripping in butter, like melted ass butter.
Oh my
Dripping.
goodness! I grew up with buttered ham sandwiches this was in a Slovak household, and yet you did not get your ham sandwich without the butter.
Well, I must be that because my mother, I don't know what we are. I still want, one of these days I'll be able to do the 23andMe, but butter, yes, butter on everything, on everything. Yes. Well, good. So where did you actually grow up? What town, city, whatever? Or you just can be vague and just say the country.
I grew up in Cleveland.
Cleveland. Okay, hot in Cleveland.
The inner city part of Cleveland. Also known to us as the East Side.
Okay.
That was where all the ethnic neighborhoods were. The neighborhood I grew up in was mostly Slovak. A few streets down were the Poles. Under the bridge were the Russians.
Yeah.
And the neighborhood was basically divided that way because this is where the people settled when they first came over the pond. And they settled with people who spoke the language they spoke and had the same customs they did. It was like kind of being home,
Yeah.
away from home.
You'd think the poles would be under the bridge to keep it up, but Michael, eat one of those ham biscuits. Delicious. I think that's probably what my mom, it seems like she mentioned to me one time that, or maybe she was making a joke about her family, but about being Polish or part. I don't even know. So one of these days, what if I could find out, you know? I know Kimberly did.
Yes.
And so
I'm glad I did.
I've done
glad
a
you
little
did.
bit of searching on some of the genealogy sites. I've actually found naturalization papers from Babka and from Detko, my paternal grandmother and paternal grandfather, and a few other things that kind of trace back at least to their generation. Now, what would be a whole bunch of fun, and I'm going to get around to it one of these days, if I could find about my biological heritage, because I and my sister were adopted.
crazy.
So neither of us knows anything about our biological. Well, she doesn't know anything about anything now. She died 11 years ago, but I don't know anything about the biological parents. The state of Ohio tells me that I could get the original birth certificate. It's just that I haven't done it yet.
Yeah. And there's a reason you haven't done it. Just
Simply because I haven't got around to it.
okay. I didn't know if there was some deep-rooted, thing, and so.
I mean, there was never a deep-seated need to do this because, she would always ask me, aren't you wanting to look for your biological parents. And I would always tell her, well, it isn't a big thing right now because you were my parent, you know, and your
Right.
husband is my parent. Well, that's when I thought they were my parents, but so there was never that deep-seated need or anything like that. It's just
Yeah.
eventually maybe I'll get around to it. From what I'm told, my bio mother would be about 83, 84 right
Yeah.
about now. So if I don't get around to it soon, I might not be able to. But what would be really fun, if you don't mind things getting a little salty here, would
up for
be
it.
if I found bio mom and bio dad. She was a bull dyke.
Oh,
He was an effeminate poofter, and I had a couple of trans siblings. That would be hilarious.
well, then we could say, see, I told you, we're born with it.
Yeah, we could get into that a little
That's
later.
right. That'd be an awesome show. That would be cool. Just like one flamer. I don't even know if that's appropriate, but you know, like, and then it's one like you said, and just like awesome. What an awesome family. That would be cool. And so I hope at 83 she is just diking it up. If she is,
That would be perfect.
it sure would. Now I noticed that you don't reference your adoptive parents, you know, by mom and dad. You probably did at one time, but
I did it one time.
I'm gonna assume that
I learned.
is it because they turned their backs on you during your transition or when you tried to go to them? Yeah.
Yeah, that's not only that, but they were rather abusive during my childhood, during my sister's childhood. She caught a lot of crap from them. I mean, they drove her out of the house, basically. They decided one day that she was pregnant with no evidence to back it up or anything like that. Giving her a whole bunch of crap for 2 days straight. And one morning I woke up and she wasn't there. And she had taken off. She stayed with a friend of hers for a couple of days and ended up living in a tack room. If anybody's familiar with horses and stabling, a tack room is where you keep the hardware for the horses, like the saddles and the bridles, the reins, that sort of thing. She was working at a thoroughbred racetrack at the time, and she basically lived there. And to her, that was infinitely preferable than staying and catching all the garbage.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I thought of it was I was envious that she was able to work up the nerve to do that.
Oh, Diana. So she'd rather be around horse shit than bullshit, right?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
That's good. That's good. Good for her. Well, I know that probably left a void for you because you probably had an ally. I'm making an assumption there, and now you're left with two people that you certainly didn't deserve to have. It sounds like to me.
Well, my sister and I were polar opposites. I mean, we did basically get along. We did not have anything in common. I like to tell people that the slimy bastards raised the two of us, Roman Catholic. She found Jesus, I found Carl Sagan.
Oh.
That was just, one of the things.
Yeah.
She leaned very conservative. I, as time went on, leaned more and more liberal. I mean, right now, were she to have been alive in 2016, she probably would have voted for Donald Trump, whereas I'm slightly to the left of Bernie Sanders. Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
like that.
I got you.
But she was a decent person, really.
Well, did you ever share with her your feelings and about transitioning, or was that a little early? I don't know. Like, what age did you figure some things out there?
Well, I knew early that something was up. I just didn't know what it was called. the age of maybe 7 or 8 or 10, I already knew that something was going on. I can remember sitting at home alone one day crying and thinking, am I like Christine Jorgensen? And what the hell do I do if I am? And I was about 10 or 11 years old at the time. Now, my sister knew about my early cross dressing, but I never really said anything about my thoughts that I might be what I later found out was called transgender. And then she went full Pentecostal, and there was no way I was going to tell her anything by that time.
What do you think about that, Kimberly? Good
Yeah,
idea?
I mean, yeah, I can kind of sympathize. Not to the degree that you are with, you have family members you feel like you can't be completely honest with because you want to maintain a relationship on whatever level you can.
Yeah, and that was the big thing about those two dropping me. And then, well, once they did, they were causing so much crap that the rest of the family didn't want to put up with it. They dropped me also. Well,
That's terrible.
there's one cousin that still talks to me, and they don't like her either. So, and I'm thinking of where I'm going with this. Where was I going with
Well,
this?
I don't know. Maybe like when you tried to tell them, or did you try, or did they just figure some things out, or did you even feel comfortable going to them?
Oh, okay, that's where I was going. Yeah, when I was young, I dared not say a thing because I knew it would. I knew what would happen. I would be an 11-year-old out on the street, not very comfortable. By the time I came out, my reasoning was they were getting up in years. This was 2011, so he would have been, let me think, he was born in 1925, so 87. He would have been, and she would have been 88. And I figured they didn't have that much mileage left, and somebody was going to die, and I didn't want to make a scene at a funeral.
Yeah.
And I figured, okay, I better say something. And it was also the case that I was dating someone at the time who happened to be a guy that didn't go very far. And were that to come out, there'd have to be some explanation. So, okay, I might as well just come right out with it. I'd already come out to some of the younger family members, and they were all wonderfully supportive. It was absolutely fantastic. They're telling me, hey, you're finally who you are, and good for you, and everything. And my cousin-in-law was telling me, yeah, you got to tell your folks, you really should. And I said, hey, Marge, you know what'll happen. You know what they're like.
Yeah.
But finally, when I did, yeah, she was the first one to say, okay, bye, which really pissed me off. Those two turning their backs on me wasn't as bad as the rest of them doing that. I mean, it still hurt. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
It took me months to really get over that. And there are some live journal entries to attest to that. But then I finally came to the conclusion, I didn't lose a family. I never had one in the first place. Just going by previous behavior.
Well, do you think, I don't know, sometimes when you say you're pissed, but you're more hurt than pissed, I do
Yeah.
that sometimes, like, I'm
Yeah.
pissed off, but
Yeah, and the two do go together.
they do, especially for women, I think. I think so, and I'm sure people in general.
Probably so, yeah.
Yeah.
It surprises me that nobody knew before I came out with it, because there were indications. They would say, gee, Eddie seems to be so soft, and what are some of the other feminine adjectives I'm looking for? He likes the small things, and He's the nurturing kind, and it's sort of interesting that nobody caught up. Well, I wasn't catching on at the time, so I really can't blame them. But yeah, I wonder what my babka would have thought of me. I mean, she's the one who taught me to bake, taught me to embroider,
Oh, very nice.
She knew.
and her, the female, would complain, why our grandma and Aunt Elsie giving him the girl gifts and teaching him the girl things. Why not give him a ball and bat, one of those? And still didn't catch on.
It sounds like maybe your babka sensed something, in you, and
Just wanted to nurture that, maybe.
yeah. It sounds like she was
I have to wonder. Yeah,
brilliant.
it's too bad that I'll never know. She died in 1986, well before I felt I had to come out. I mean, I already knew what was going on with me, but it was a matter of just the situation I was in.
Yeah.
First I'm a kid and I really can't do anything because I'd be homeless. And then I had a job, and then I got married, and then I got divorced, and then I got, well, not officially married, but my latest ex and I were together for 11 years. And then finally, when Mel took off, I just finally came to the conclusion where, look, if I don't do something about this, it's going to kill me. I might as well do it now that I've got the chance. And there began my transition
Wow.
in 2009.
Now, let me ask you this: as far as this is kind of, it's not a sidetrack, but we had a friend on the show before, and Nadia. I'm not sure if you've come across you. I believe she was an atheist, but she was telling us that it's so hard to find employment and housing as a trans person, and that never ever entered my mind. I don't know why, but you know what I'm saying, Kimberly?
Yeah, that's very
Yeah,
strange. I wouldn't have.
after we
wow.
talked last week, I was looking around
sad.
for a few maps. I wish I knew how to put one of the maps on screen that I found that was going over employment protections. And down the backbone of the U.S., the Great Plains, and then across the southern states, there are absolutely no protections for any of the LGBT.
Wow.
I mean, it comes out that you're gay, you could lose a job without recourse. You could lose housing without recourse. Well, even here in Pennsylvania, there are protections at the state level for employment, thanks to some of the executive orders that Tom Wolfe signed, but nothing in the private sector. Were I in the job market, it wouldn't necessarily happen here in Pittsburgh, but say in York or in Lancaster, southern Pennsylvania, where it's deep red,
Yeah.
I would be worried.
See, that's one of the embarrassing things as far as being Republican is they just haven't caught up with society or human compassion, really, in a lot of areas. In some, areas, they're very compassionate, whatever. But in this area, I'll say, and that's really embarrassing. I thought President Trump would be more proactive, or let's just say active, in helping that community.
Well,
But
so did a lot of us.
I did too, and I'm not going to count him out on this, but I'm going to really
Express some disappointment.
express some disappointment and try to find out what's the cog and the what's the stick in the wheel or cog and what?
Yeah, because that administration has rolled back quite a few protections. Protections for the trans kids in school. come out as trans now, and you could be in some big trouble.
Oh, Lord.
And thinking of where I was going with this. Oh, I was locking horns with a Catholic apologist on a channel called Catholic Answers. And he was a major example of what people are not getting. Now, I can kind of understand why they're not getting it, but Trent Horn's thing was, you have an XY karyotype, you're a man. You have an XX karyotype, you're a woman. That's it. It's over. And not understanding that there are other factors. I told him about the studies where brain areas known as the sexually dimorphic nuclei, they do have different dimensions and connectivity, from cis men to cis women. And we, the transsexuals, fall in between where one would expect my brain to more resemble a cis woman's brain. Not exactly, but a lot closer. And one would expect a trans man's brain to more resemble a cis man's brain. And he comes at me with, well, a little bump in the brain doesn't mean anything. I said, Trent, the brain is the seat of the mind, the seat of the identity. And identity is the big word. If I ask you, how do you know you're a woman? How do you answer? Because this is a question we get asked all the time. And the thing is, man, woman, the whole gender thing, it's so basic that nobody thinks about it. But we have to. And so that's how we get more of a perspective about that. And it's really difficult convincing people who want to say, okay, you're a man in a dress and that's it. That no, there's more going on here.
Well, growing up, I was very sheltered, just a lot of degrees, in a lot of ways, I should say, but transvestites is what I knew about. I didn't know that someone, would identify differently than how they were born or felt. I didn't even know that was.
Transvestite is what I hoped I was for the longest time, and unfortunately, I was wrong.
Yeah, because I've been to New Orleans and I've been to shows, transvestite shows where the women, and now I'm having to think, were they men dressed as women or were they really women?
It varies.
So I don't know. I don't know now. I'm confused. But that's what I thought. I thought, well, here's Whitney Houston, but beautiful black man dressed up like Whitney Houston, and then he takes it all off and he's, whatever. And so.
And the chances are that he identifies as a man, and he's simply an entertainer.
Could be, yeah.
And a lot of the, well, I shouldn't say a lot of the transvestites I know, I know most about male transvestites and, male to female transsexuals because, that's my purview, my venue.
Yeah.
The transvestites identify as men, but they simply like to take on the role from time to time.
Okay.
And sometimes it's entertainment in the case of drag queens.
Right. Yeah.
Or sometimes it's just, hey, I like the clothing, I like the presentation, and I'll do it from time to time. But when I come home and take and take the clothes off, I'm still Bob or I'm still Joe or whatever it is. Not so with those of us who have discovered that we are transgendered.
Right.
There's a fundamental difference going on there.
Yeah.
And I say I hoped I was a transvestite because, in the words of a person who was interviewed on a documentary years ago called "What Sex Am I?" He was a transvestite, also a psychiatrist, by the way, and worked in counseling people who were questioning their gender. And his words were, the interviewer asked him, are you transsexual? He said, oh no, I would not want to be. Those people go through hell. And he's right.
Right. Right. Well, I was going to ask Kimberly this. When you wake up, do you ever consider, hey, I'm a woman, I'm a girl?
No, it's
I don't
just it's part
either.
of my identity, and I'm just wonder if that's, how Diane knew. It just was part of who you are, even though people are telling you you're something else.
That's the really funny thing about it. And I get a lot of things about gender isn't feels, gender isn't feelings, but that's all we've got.
Yeah.
We feel ourselves to be who we are because that's the only way to experience it. It's not what we do. I mean, I'm not a woman because I like to cook. Jeff Smith likes to cook.
Right.
The frugal gourmet.
Right.
Alton Brown
Right.
loved to cook. Those are men. They identify very much as men. I'm not a woman because I like embroidery. Think of, if you remember Rosie Greer,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
football player with
Yeah.
the Detroit Lions.
Steelers. Oh.
Big needlepoint fan. He identifies as a man. So it's not what you do, it's what you are.
Right. Exactly.
But how do you know what you are if you don't feel it?
That's a good point. Yeah, for sure. And then who is someone else to tell you how you feel? I don't know. I'm getting the cutoff sign because we have something else going on next. But this is so fascinating to me. It's not like because it's an oddity at all. It's because I'm learning. I wasn't exposed to a lot of people that were. Probably now they might be, but they were not, I don't want to say confident, because you can be confident, yet you can't come out at this time because it's your timing. But
Sometimes things just stand in the way.
that's right.
Well, with me for half a century.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I tell you what, thank you so much because, that's a lot to bring to the table and share. But, I remember being a tomboy when I was younger, and I guess still sort of, I never thought I was a boy. Mm-hmm. I just thought I could play baseball as good as any boy. That's what I thought. Yeah. I can hit the ball
that's
far.
perfectly valid.
Yeah.
I mean, my sister was a big tomboy.
Yeah, I'm just...
and yet, as far as I know, she identified as a woman.
Sure. Yeah, and...
Or if she didn't say anything about it.
Well, the day should come where we just wake up and we just say we're human today. We just don't have to think about it. Kimberly and I don't have to think about it. But I see where when you wake up, you have to go through some hoops, and we need to stop that in this country. You shouldn't have to do that. And, maybe I'll get old Donnie on the phone and tell him he needs to help my buddy Diana. And
I'll tell you, there are some hoops I have to go through. I miss the old days, in a sense, where I could get out of bed and I didn't have to worry about getting dressed. I didn't have to worry about getting pretty, anything like this. I just walked out, and I'm trying to do the boy thing, but everybody saw me as a man, a boy, whatever.
Yeah.
Now the stuff I've got to go through just to be presentable to go out of the door takes me, an hour. Just And that's without the makeup or anything.
I was gonna say on Sundays is like the only time I wear makeup, really, but but I feel you, girl. I do. And thank you so much for being on Reflections with us. And I know next
Thank
week.
you for having me around. Thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, it's easy. It's easy. And next week we pull some more out of you. And then Kimberly has got these tarot cards I am so interested in. I want her to tell me about those. So next week, if Diana wants to, we'll do some more unpacking that, and then Kimberly can
Do a tarot read.
do a tarot read on me. That'd be awesome.
Ganz gut. Ganz
Yeah.
gut.
Yes, and then we'll have our Ouija up here next week. I'm just
Oh,
joking.
yeah. Ouija
Yeah, Ouija. Jump. Okay. All right, people. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next week.